Welcome back to the Big Idea 2 Bestseller Podcast. We got Rich Sanders in the house today. Rich, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jake. I'm so glad to be here. I appreciate it.
Now, this is going to be great. So, you recently came out with your newest book, Tools of the Bible, and I want to kind of just start there. What made you want to write this book in particular, and how do you expect to use it?
Jake, thanks so much for asking, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your listeners about this. The idea came to me from my grandfather, who had two very different but specific traits. He was a very devout man, and he was a gifted craftsman. He read. He was a very regular churchgoer throughout his whole life. But when he retired from the railroad after 50 years of work there, he said, "I'm going to read the Bible every year," and read it 28 times until he was 93. And somewhere along the way, he said, "You know what? I'm really interested in tools." The family legend is he could make anything from anything. That kind of guy. He had a garage that was a workshop. A car never even darkened that door. And so he just started a list. 5 or 6 years in a row, just writing down tools, writing down craftsmen, writing down the materials that are mentioned in the Bible. Jake, I didn't know about this until his funeral. We're there celebrating his life 5 years ago. This is Memorial Day of 2021. And my aunt Charlene, came to me and said, "Well, you're the pastor in the family. We thought you might want to have this." And it's a folder with 6 pages in it. And it's just the list that he had typed up. And it was, book of the Bible, chapter and verse, and then the name of the tool, material, or craftsman. And I said, I had no idea. She was like, "Yeah, he's been working on this for years, but we thought you'd want to have it." And I said, "Well, thank you. This is my next book." And so it took 5 years. I had to get the Christian Capitalist done, but here we are.
That's an amazing story. And I'm a sucker for a good like reason why someone does something, right? And so that's a beautiful thing. So just so the listeners know, how many books have you written? I know we've helped you with a couple, but how many books have you written overall at this point?
I have written two, The Christian Capitalist, which y'all helped me with, and I'm so grateful 2 years ago to get a chance to meet and work with you then. And that reached Amazon #1 bestseller. And then Tools of the Bible, which reached bestseller status on Amazon as well.
Amazing. And so I want to know, you've written two books. How many books are there in the Rich Sanders pipeline?
Funny you ask, I've got five more.
Okay. Now, when you think about that, and I ask you that question, right? And it's always funny because once you write one, it tends to lead to more. So
Yeah.
for you, like, why do you want to write more books? You mentioned you got five more. Like, what excites you about doing more and writing more and putting books out to the world?
Well, I love that question, man, because I am committed to bringing people to a closer walk with God. I'm a pastor in the church. We Rebecca and I started a church called Online Home Church back in the COVID first weekend of the COVID lockdown when nobody could go anywhere really. Uh, and so I give a sermon every week, and I enjoy that particular kind of localized snapshot in time of what's going on. But one of the reasons I like writing is it's more deliberate, it's more thoughtful, and it's just kind of a different way to approach the same general mission, which is helping people get closer to the Lord. And so each of these books that I have in mind, the two that I've already written, the five more that I have in progress, and along with a series that I'll tell you about if there's time on women in the Bible, each of these is just a different way to try and help people connect with the Lord. Because in these times, it's so difficult with all the different challenges we have to attention and anxiety and the kind of the general challenges of life that people have always felt, but in 2026 are unique to us in this country in this time. It's just a different angle, different mechanism.
Yeah. And why books as the vehicle to do this, right? Because there are, like you just said, there are so many ways that people spend their attention, spend their time, spend their money. Like, what made books be the most exciting option for you to choose to execute on this mission?
Well, it's interesting. The more that I talk to folks about the work that I've done as an author, the more I get insight into that. Like I sat down to write my first book because I wanted it to be a platform or a foundation, if you will, of future conversations. And I think Tools of the Bible will accomplish that too. But the reason people like to sit down and read is that compared to social media posts that last 30 seconds to a minute, or compared to a podcast episode like ours today that's going to be approximately 20 minutes, a book is something that they can spend time with and reflect and kind of manage on their own schedule, where they read one page at a time or one chapter at a time. It is something that that kind of grabs their attention. I love it, by the way. My Aunt Charlene, who gave me the folder with the original list of books and chapters and verses, she and I talked last week, and she said, "I love this book. I sat down and read it. I couldn't put it down." I'm like, "Well, that's what law authors love to hear."
Yeah, that
That's
might be
fantastic.
an author's favorite a favorite compliment. I couldn't put it
Exactly.
down, right?
Right.
Especially when it's a nonfiction book, right?
Right.
Like fiction, of
Exactly.
course, you get involved in the storyline, but nonfiction, the fact that someone can read something quickly and read it through is such a spectacular thing. Which leads me to actually something I wanted to talk about. This book was a little bit unique in the way that you kind of packaged it and the way you built it. And so I would love to kind of know like the first book that you worked on with us, right?
Mhm.
Standard size book, kind of focused more on like the traditional style of it. But this book was designed with a different end goal in mind. And so I'd love
Yes.
to kind of hear how you really leveraged the tools component of it and what the vision of it was when you created it and turned those 6 pages from your family into this book.
Hey man, listen, I'm feeling like such a dummy because you see this closed door here. The box of books is on the other side of that closed door. I'd love to wave it around, but if I and I'll go grab it if I can. But here's the thing: we did pick a particular size, 5 by 7, so that it'll easily fit in someone's jean pocket or coveralls, right in the front. I want it to be accessible for folks that like to use tools, just as it is accessible for folks who like the Bible and want to learn more about tools. But I'm envisioning this sitting on somebody's workbench because they can just pick it up and read one page if they like, or as my aunt did, sit down and read a whole bunch in a row and read the whole thing. So it is not only 5 by 7, but each page is just one tool, one material, or one craftsman. So if you want to read about hammer, or you want to read about farmer or architect, or you
Mhm.
want to read about copper versus brass, or acacia wood, each one is just its own little segment, and
Yep.
the pattern of each page is the same if across the whole book. We quote a verse. This is from my grandfather's list. We talk about the verse. We talk about what that verse means, the symbolism of it, and then talk generally what that tool, craftsman, or material symbolize throughout the whole Bible. I got to tell you, as an author, and I know you've written 4 bestsellers, my man, it was really some author's discipline to do that because I wanted each page in this little 5 by 7 book that fits in your pocket to be no more than 200 words. So I was Mr. Word Economy on this one. It
Yeah.
was a fun challenge.
So it's fun. What I like about this is you use the book as a tool that you've seen and been proven to work. And then what you've done is you've combined it with the audience you aim to serve, which I thought was a really interesting component of this. And I think of different things in this book world because we've done so many different books now. Is you kind of took some of the elements of what I call a daily book, which is a book where there's 365 things. You read one book per day, right? The Daily Stoic is one of the most popular versions of this type of book. And you read one page every single day. And there's a handful of different books that fall into this bucket. But what's really fascinating about this is the size of it to me.
Yeah.
I think back to when I was a kid and my grandfather gave me a book and it was a pocket dictionary, right? And it was a
Exactly.
probably a very similar size. I can't remember exact size, but it was something that you can take around for you. You could have it in like my grandma's purse when we would go on trips, or I could put it in my pocket, or I could whatever. And it was easy to flip through it and thumb through it at times that I wanted to learn something or
Yes.
be inspired. And so for
Yes.
you, you've combined two elements of this book. One, you've brought in the religious component to the people you aim to serve, and you've brought in the tools component, which has family ties. And also, this book is going to be often utilized by people who have space for that in their stuff, who carry different things.
By the
So
way,
there we
here's my
go.
beautiful wife, Rebecca, who
There
I've
we
texted
go. We
to
got a
bring it
special
the book.
appearance here. This is special. All right, we had a VIP
Exactly.
appearance on this episode, and we got
That's
a
right.
hand delivered book directly to the podcast. So,
It's like
Rich, for the
Vanna
people,
White and Sajak, right?
yeah. So for the people who are watching this,
Yeah.
hold it up for the people that are just listening to this. You guys could see that Rich is holding up the book. And Rich, if you could just kind of put your hand like on the bottom and on the top so people could see, right, the kind of size that it is. And I think that this is such a really interesting thing for people to recognize on that front. So I want to ask the next question here. All right. I want to ask the next question here, Rich. What is the plan for this book? We've talked about the size, we've talked about the audience, we talked about how it was created. What's now the plan to get this out there?
Well, two things. The first is that we're going to go to traditional bookstores and churches with bookstores that like to sell books about the Bible. That seems to be an easy, natural audience. The more kind of unique angle is, as you and I have talked about for the last couple of months, is going to hardware stores and places that sell tools or materials that craftsmen and women use that might be interested in saying, hey, you know what? If I've got a customer here buying a hammer, or I've got a customer here buying I don't know, a couple of two by fours for a project at home, maybe they're interested in reading this as well. Because I think it's a book that will help people engage the Bible more if they're interested in tools, and it'll help folks like my Aunt Charlene, who's read the Bible more times than I can count and been going to church. Listen, in Alabama, really, really devout Christians like my aunt, my entire family there, they are Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and Wednesday evening. My Aunt Charlene's been doing that since she was about 3 years old. So when you've read the Bible that many times, you're looking for something different, right? Some different way to engage with it. And this, I hope, is something that pastors and people who lead Bible studies or youth groups will say, you know what, this is something engaging that we've never really thought about this before. I did a little competitive research and couldn't find anything like this on the market. So I'm thrilled to be able to say, hey, well, let's try something new. Speaking of new, by the way, since I held up the cover, I wanted to spend one more thing on this. It's tools, craftsmen, and materials. And so the cover is unique. It's two of the materials we mentioned in the book. The first is cedar, which King Solomon used to cover the floor, the walls, and the ceiling in the Holy of Holies in the temple, right? The most holy place really in ancient Israel. And the letters are supposed to look like iron, which is one of the other materials we mentioned. Plows, hammers, you name it. Lots made of iron in the Bronze Age.
Awesome. I love it. So this book, you got these notes 2021.
Mhm.
What made you decide to do your first book first and then this book? Talk to me about the timeline and the strategy behind how you chose things. And it might just be as simple as, well, I decided to do that one first, so this one got on hold, and then I did it next. What?
It wasn't quite that easy, but yeah, fundamentally,
Yeah, yeah.
because I was already
Walk us through it.
yeah, I was already neck deep in the Christian Capitalist, which you helped me publish on Amazon in 2024. The reason I kept Christian Capitalist on the front burner is the social dynamic, really in our country, of the declining popularity of capitalism and the increasing number of people who identify themselves as Christians. In the 2020 survey, or what you call it, in the 2020 census, which of course was all jacked up because of COVID. In the 2020 census, though, the United States of America, are at 330 million people, but the lowest number of people who said, yeah, I'm a Christian or I'm in a Christian household. Likewise, number of different polling agencies in 21 and 22 were saying, you know, we're looking at capitalism and the unfavorable numbers are really high, and the socialism numbers are in terms of popularity are increasing. So I thought, well, with these twin dynamics, there's more of a sense of urgency on talking to folks about how you can be a Christian and a capitalist. And of course, the motto of the movement is the more you make, the more you give to the poor and needy. But Tools of the Bible was already right there. I mean, I literally had what I wouldn't call it the outline. My grandfather made no editorial comment in his list other than one, and it was two names. Jake, I went to seminary at Emory University, and this is no knock on the faculty there. In fact, my Old Testament professor was a resource for me, even though I graduated 12 years ago. Um, I didn't know the names Bezalel and Aholiab. but Bezalel and Aholiab in my grandfather's list said were the greatest craftsmen in the Bible. And I went and looked them up, and sure enough, they helped Moses build the Ark of the Covenant. How about that?
Mm.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Acacia wood overlaid with gold, by the way. But I don't want to steal my own thunder from Tools of the Bible.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why people got to read it. So when you now that this book's out, where do people buy the book? Where do people get the book? Let us know how we can go about and getting that.
Thank you. It's available on Amazon, and if you're able to go get it on Amazon, we would very much appreciate it. You can get the ebook, you can get the paperback, which we have right here, and of as of this week, we have downloaded an audio version for your folks that are listening to this podcast and may want to just go to ACX or whatever it's called, Audible. You can get an audio version of the book as well. I recorded in a studio called Insight in Franklin, Tennessee, run by my good friend Chris Thompson. So, yeah, lots of ways to access it. But because of your specialty in focusing on helping books get out into the world through Amazon, that's the best way for your listeners and viewers to get a hold of it.
Amazing. Yeah. And if you run a hardware store, reach out to Rich, right? If you want to be the
Exactly.
first to carry Tools of the Bible in your store, reach out to Rich. So
Right
this has
on.
been really great, Rich. It's been a pleasure not only catching up about this book, but I've also kind of seeing your progress and seeing the last few years of how you brought the first book to life, brought the second book to life, the intention you have behind that. That's something that I love seeing in our authors is like they got to have a purpose. And they got to be driven to do something great. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate what you've put together here, and I think a lot of people are going to benefit from it who share
Thank you,
who
Jake.
share your values. So
Thank you,
thank you for
Jake.
coming on the
Let
show.
me give you one more preview of coming attractions that talks about this dynamic that I saw in the census in 2021 and those years. The young people, I'm 55. So people that are my kids' age, they range from 21 to 26. People that are my kids' age are making a difference in the way we as a nation, we as a world are following God. And I'm just thrilled to see this change and the way that they're kind of coming, not necessarily to church, but coming back into their faith. They've all dealt with COVID in a tough way and the societal kind of disruption that caused. The next book is actually going to be a series of books called Women of the Bible. We've picked 12 women, some that everybody knows, some that are not so well known, and we're going to write little books about each of these women in a series. I got the idea from my mother, whose middle name is Ruth. And this Tools of the Bible is about my grandfather, my grandmother, his wife, who's also named Ruth, and our daughter's name is Ruth. So I wrote a book for my mother, who has very, very severe Alzheimer's, and it's about Ruth. And she loved it, even though she probably didn't understand what she was reading. But my favorite part is my mom has a PhD in education. She read it out loud to all the other people in memory care. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
So I was talking with my uncle, who's a very gifted scientist, and we're going to use AI to help create this series of books. I mentioned this to some young women in our community, and they immediately like jumped on me. And not literally, of course. They, but figuratively said, wait. We don't want AI to write it. We want to write it. Isn't that wonderful? So these 25-year-olds are like, wait, whoa, hold on just a second. We want to sit down with the Bible and write these short little books for seniors in memory care. And it turns out children are at the same reading level about women of the Bible. So that's coming up next. Just a preview of
That'd be awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Rich. I appreciate you, and we'll see everybody on the next episode.
Thanks so much, man. It's a pleasure. I appreciate it.